This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Boobies! Hi,
Hello, and welcome to
Boobies!
Boobays. That's right. We're your hosts. I'm Caitlin.
And I'm Joshua.
And today we're here to talk to you about Bring, bring.
The Black Phone.
2021, directed by Scott Derrickson.
Yes, Scott Derrickson, who we have previously covered. We've covered Sinister, have we not?
Yeah, we covered.
Yes.
That's Baba Ganoush, right?
Baba Ganoush. Bagul.
Bagul.
Bagul, yes. But he
I love to
also...
eat Baba Ganoush. And
Also,
Ethan Hawke was in that as well.
Well, also Ethan Hawke and Deputy So-and-so. He played his brother.
Oh, right. Max.
Uh-huh.
That's right.
Yeah, so he pulled them back in for this. I thought that was also really cool because as soon as I saw, well, there was a couple like nods, and I'm sure you might have some fun facts about it. But there were a couple
Yeah, I
nods
haven't pulled them up yet.
that I noticed. And then that was like, I was like, oh, is this the same person who made Sinister? And yeah, it was. So I really like that he kind of put in a little bit of nods into his own work. And also we got both Ethan Hawke and now who plays Max? Because I need to put respect on his name. James Ranson. James Ranson. Yeah. So this movie, like we said, 2021, it's a supernatural horror film because it's definitely got a couple different elements in it.
Yeah.
And it's honestly a really well done, like, kind of combination.
Yeah, we got some ghosties. We've got real life terror.
Yeah, like true crime, like,
Kidnapping.
It kind of gave a little bit like Silence of the Lambs,
Yeah.
almost even vibes at times because we have our the Grabber, who is our main villain for the movie, who definitely has some demons of his own that he's battling, and he's taking it out on, unfortunately, these poor children that we find throughout the whole movie.
Boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're starring Mason Thames as our main character, who I most recently saw in the movie Incoming on Netflix. Have you watched that yet?
No, I haven't. What is that?
It's like it's kind of like a funny, almost raunchy, like incoming freshman movie. High school freshman, and it's like a coming of age kind of
film. Yeah.
Film. And he's the main character in that movie, and it was like he's a little more grown up because he's like 17 in real life, so he looks older than he does in this film. But yeah, but he plays an incoming freshman, and it's pretty. We've watched it twice now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's funny. You know what? He's also in another movie called Monster Summer, and it's an adventure horror film, but it's directed by David Henry, the dude from Wizards of Waverly Place, who played Selena Gomez's brother.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, that's random, but also cool.
That is random.
It's funny how, like, all these, I guess it's not really random, right? They're in Hollywood, but how they all connect sometimes.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, whoa, how did these two intersect? But
especially
he's also going to
have
be
such random backgrounds,
right? And then he's going to be in the Black Phone too, as well, because this movie is getting a sequel.
Yes, in 2020 this year. So
yeah, super exciting.
It'll be coming out hopefully shortly. But we also got Miguel Mora, Madeline McGraw, Brady Hepner, Jacob Moran, a long list of like all the boys who went missing. That wasn't even including like Bruce and stuff. So I just wrote down a few of the names. But long list of who this movie all stars, because there's quite a few characters.
That's so cool. Yeah, there is a really good cast and roster. I mean, and also they're also like freaking talented for being
Mm.
like fucking young. Like all of them. Like they were also like committed to their bits. Um Also, kind of side note, my bad. Our main guy Finn, he's also gonna be in the live remake of How to Train Your Dragon. I
Yes, I
just
saw
like
that. I saw that
felt like
too.
even harder, like and like awe of him. He's a good actor. He's a really good little actor.
Is
Him
he
and his
gonna?
sister
Yeah, his sister Gwen, the
like
girl who
crushed
played
it.
Gwen, did such a phenomenal job. Sorry, man.
He's gonna be playing Hiccup. Yeah,
Okay, he will be playing
yeah,
Hiccup.
yeah. Which I
I
can
could
totally
see that.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
But
had seen like a few different cast lists for who would be playing Hiccup, and like, like the fake rumored ones. And
yeah,
they're like, "Ooh, who's it gonna be?" And then it's like this random ass person.
yeah.
I remember that with Twilight, and like whenever they casted everyone as they did for Twilight, like
You were like, who
I
the
was
fuck are these people?
yeah, I was so mad because like the rumored cast list, like you remember the movie Sucker Punch?
Oh, I love Sucker Punch. I just
Yeah.
watched it the other day.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
one of my favorite movies.
So the
Yeah.
main girl from that, who's also
Emily
in the
Browning.
series of Unfortunate Events, right?
Emily Browning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
She was supposed to play Bella,
Oh,
according to
okay.
this one rumored thing that I saw. And I was like, she would have been a perfect Bella, of
I
like
can see it.
imagining in my head of like what I read when I read the book.
See, I also never read the book, so there's the thing.
Oh,
So, but
yes.
like,
Yeah, I
Does Kristen
obsessed
Stewart give
with the book.
Bella?
To me, she didn't, but
Okay.
now it's like so iconic that like I'm like,
Nobody
I'm
else
not
could. It's
mad.
so ingrained, like,
Yeah. But
yeah,
like all of her like
little nuances and stuff. That was
blinkings
not
and
Bella.
stuff. No, I was like, what the fuck is she?
Like, what is wrong
What's
with
going
her?
on?
Was Bella like more like kind of like cool, or at least like not
Bella
as
was definitely
awkward?
like, no, Bella was definitely awkward, but like I never imagined her being like that.
Yeah.
I guess I kind of, as you do, like when you've got someone who's roughly your age and stuff, like in a book, you kind of imagine them as yourself,
Mhm.
but like similar characteristics. And like I was awkward and stuff, and still
But you
am.
wouldn't be doing that.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
like I felt like almost offended when I
Well,
saw. I was
because
like, what the hell? I don't act like
because
that.
Bella Swan does give like very ugh, like emo like what like older people like mock I mean like emo teens to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's what her characterization kind of gave. So, yeah, I can see that.
And she's
But
supposed to swoon the hottest boy in school acting like that. And I'm like, no.
yeah, she didn't have the
But I
charm.
guess it's because of her blood. It
Yeah.
smelled so good.
So
Yeah.
yeah, we should probably get into it, right?
Yeah, we start at a baseball game. We've got
Hoo-hoo-hoo.
little Finney boy as a pitcher, and we've
Mhm.
got Bruce up to bat.
And it's Denver, 1978. So we're already setting the scene. We're in the 70s, late 70s. So it's definitely a time when we know that serial killers, not serial killers, but maybe like, well, yeah, serial killers,
He
but
is a serial killer,
kidnappings,
yeah.
yes, kidnappers, serial killings, stuff of that nature, like was kind of a bit easier to get away with because there weren't cameras at every corner and they couldn't access, someone's someone's cell phone and ping it and find someone, where they were 15 miles away 20 minutes ago. So,
And DNA, I don't even think was as viable of a
I
like
don't
I
think
don't
so
even
either.
think like DNA tracing had been done at that point. You said
Yeah.
78?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
gonna look it
DNA
up.
was sometime in the 80s in London.
1986. Mm-hmm. A
And
whole almost decade later.
yeah, in 1986, because I remember watching the forensic files of the first case to ever use DNA in a court of law. And it was in the 80s. And it was in
Yeah.
London
It
or
was a
in the UK.
It was a double. Oh, R word and murder in England. Yeah.
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 I remember watching that Forensic Files. See, I learned so
That's
much.
interesting. You can learn so much from TV.
You
And
can.
so we are here and it is kind of giving, like the vibe. It's the 70s. It's, summertime, good vibe. Maybe not summertime, I'm not sure. It might be school time
Summertime.
still. But the vibes are cool. The kids are having a baseball game and Finn, our main guy, he's pitching the ball and he's throwing it to Bruce Yamada. And he's trying to, what's the word, like strike him out, right?
Yeah, he gets
Mm-hmm.
2 strikes and is about to go for a third
Mm-hmm.
when Bruce hits a home run. It
Like
goes over the fence,
it just
out of
bombs.
the town,
Yeah.
and Bruce runs along, and he seems kind of cocky at first because he's like,
Yeah.
but then afterwards he comes back up to them and he's like, your arm is mint. You almost had
Yeah.
me there.
Mm-hmm.
And which that will come back into play later. But yeah, he's like, your arm is good. Like you almost got me.
He gave
And
him a run for his money.
yeah,
Mhm.
and so that was like a nice
A
little
compliment.
camaraderie compliment, yeah, that they had there. Um, and then they walk off, and then we're with Bruce on his bike, and he's
Mhm.
just living it up. He looks
Yeah.
so 70s with the hair and the swoop
And
and
then like
like
the riding the bike, all the houses, it's the
with the striped
song.
shirt and
Yeah.
everything, just like living life. And like he's hot shit.
Yeah. He's definitely given like, popular kid in school. Seems like he might, be a star athlete, so he probably gets a lot of attention and a lot of, people just probably patting him on the back all the time. And so probably drawing a lot of attention to him as well, because as he's, having this picturesque little bicycle ride through the neighborhood and we see like a rocket going off and like a model rocket, and then that Finn, isn't it Finn? That Finn's
Maybe, yeah.
I
I
think
don't
it was
know.
Finn, but someone's putting a model rocket, and then we see behind him this black van kind of start creeping along behind him,
Mhm.
and already from the get you can kind of get like creeper vibes from it,
Yeah.
because it kind of pulls up closer and closer, and then we kind of get like just like a picturesque like just end shot of that, and then we cut to the credits
Yeah, and
rolling.
it's like a city montage with like haunting, kind of jarring music. It was
Hmm.
very AHS,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can see that, and then where they had,
like
like, all the
with
the
less,
credits and the names coming up.
I was gonna say with like less disturbing stuff, but there was a lot of blood
Mhm.
in this intro as well.
Yeah. I think didn't, like, 90s movies too kinda do that, where they had, like, the whole or, like, 90s cop movies where they had, like, an intro like this, and then it's, like, the credits and stuff,
Beep, boop,
and
beep,
then
boop,
the title was very
boop.
subtle,
Yeah,
if I remember correctly,
I
and
was
it's just,
thinking
like,
of
the
like,
black phone.
what was that? Is that Law and Order, the theme song
Oh,
I
yeah,
just
yeah,
sang?
uh-huh.
I
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah, dum dum, dum 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 dum
Dun
dum.
dun.
Yeah, we have it then cutting to,
Law and Order.
oh, also, this movie made me cry, like, at least 2 different times.
Really?
Um, yeah, because it's a little bit heavy, and then,
It
like,
is.
the scene, where the dad is, hitting his sister, Gwen,
Yeah.
um, and sh yeah, that was a bit rough, but,
Yeah, that was
the
hard to watch.
yeah, I was like, "Ouch," yeah,
I was like, been there.
yeah, it literally made me think of you.
Yeah.
I was like, Caitlin, is this what you mean by you got beat?" Oh my
Yes.
god.
It
Oh
was pretty
god.
similar.
And so, we are at home with Finn with his sister's name is Gwen, right? We said that?
Gwen.
Gwen, yeah,
Finn and
Gwen.
Gwen.
Gwen, and the dad is reading the newspaper, and we're already getting, like,
He's
this
got beer and cornflakes.
oh, yeah, beer and cornflakes. They're
I was
setting up
like, what the ew?
Yeah, I know. They're setting up the stage for it being like that type of household where they're kind of walking on eggshells because you can tell
Mm,
that like dad's kind of a, just an asshole, a grumpy, like someone who gets sets off really easily because they're trying to be really quiet. And then Finn is slurping his milk, and the dad is like, "Can you slurp
Even
that
I
any
was
louder?"
Now, I think it's because I'd seen this before because I saw it in theaters.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, I guess I couldn't really remember, but like some part of me knew. Then I was like, damn, he's slurping kind of loud. And then the dad said it, and I was like, oh, right, that's right. The dad's like abusive.
Yeah. It really sets the tone for the rest of the movie and their interactions with him because he is so um well, he's abusive towards him, and he's cold, and he's harsh with him.
Yeah.
He's not very nurturing, and he's not very loving in the way that we would think that most parents should be. um
Very
and I-
latchkey situation.
and I mean, for they have family trauma, right? Where obviously the mom is not in the picture, so she has passed away at some point before this, and we
Mhm.
learn through the movie that basically he kind of blames whatever she had some kind of psychic power, kind of premonition type of ability, and he basically blames that for her losing her mind and essentially killing herself, even though we don't really necessarily know the whole truth to that. So that's just maybe his POV. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But uh, it definitely gets even more obvious because Gwen comes in and she's like trying to open the bread box, and whenever she opens it, it makes a really loud noise, and she's like looks immediately at her father, and she's like, "I'm sorry, Daddy," and she's very apologetic. And so already it's just like not a good setup for Finn and Gwen. And
No.
so it also uh, is something that holds them together throughout the movie as well, because they've had to really look out for each other. So
Yeah,
it's
it's
another
trauma
way of
bonding.
showing how closely bonded they are
Yeah,
as brother and
exactly.
sister. Yeah. I'm like, I wish I
And
was as oh, and then even what that other bitch says it, his crush. Like, I wish
yeah,
my
I wish
siblings and
I
I were
was
that
that
cool, like
close.
close.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
And yeah, it does make you go through. I mean, you get really close with your family, and you're like the
Hmm.
people who are also being abused. Um, but yeah, so then they're walking to school and they're on their way and they see a missing flyer for Bruce.
Hmm.
And Gwen is just kind of like, I don't think they're gonna find him. And or he was like, "What do you mean? Like you don't think they're gonna find him?" And she said, "Not how they want to." And I was like, "Ooh, that's sad." She's
Yeah.
very at such a young age too to be as like a realist as she is. It
Yeah.
made me sad because she was like, what? I don't know, like
Honestly, I couldn't
probably
tell you.
like
Like 11.
10, 11. Yeah,
Yeah, I was
I
about
don't
there
know.
because Finn probably was like no, honestly, she had to been probably 9 or 10, you're right, because Finn was probably more like 11, 12.
Yeah, I thought he was
Yeah,
like maybe on the precipice of like high school, like
13, 14.
yeah, like right before it, like eighth
Right?
grade.
Yeah, you're like 13 in 8th grade, if I'm correct. I feel like that's like 13. But also,
Yeah, I don't remember what age I was for
I
anything.
was on so many drugs back then, I can't even tell you.
I was
Um,
not, but
I'm
I
kidding.
just don't know anything.
I just kidding. No, I'm pretty sure, yeah, 8th grade was like yeah, because I remember high school freshman year, I was 14 going on to 15. So 13, 14 is like 8th grade. But
Mm,
also Finn is like he's not like the biggest kid as well. So you can tell also her too. So maybe they were just like also like small for their age, if that makes sense, for their age range.
yeah, yeah,
Because
they were.
their classmates seemed a little bit bigger than them.
Yeah, and especially at the end, remember after he, spoiler alert, kills the grabber.
Yeah. And he goes back
Or
to school.
does he? Because we're
Mm.
getting a second one.
Oh, that's
Um,
true.
or
I didn't
maybe
even think
somebody
about that.
else takes on the role.
Maybe.
Yeah. But whenever he walks into school, people are like, I thought he would be bigger and
Yeah.
stuff like that because he is, I think, was probably smaller for his age.
Yeah. And so are back with the kiddos, right? And after all of this little whatever's going on in the household, we're walking to school. Oh yeah, you already said that. Bruce is missing. And then on their way to school, there's like a fight going on, and it's between Moose and Robin. And
Yeah.
Robin is like the
Moose.
coolest kid like I've
Robin is,
ever
I know.
seen in cinema ever in my life. Like
I
he is like the coolest kid ever.
Yeah, no, he is. I wrote somewhere in my notes that I was like, because I didn't know his name. All I got was Moose's name
Yeah.
at first. And so I was like, I just kept calling him Cool Kid.
Coolest kid. Like his swag, like the way he talked, like the way he just didn't give a shit. And
Yeah.
then the way he beat up that kid. Although it was
And damn,
giving
his teeth
like
were sharp.
yeah. And also, well, granted, he did let Moose take the first swing, so it's self-defense at that point.
Yeah.
But he also like went ham on Moose. And he explains later that he had to draw blood because if he didn't do it as bad as he did, because he fucks him up, it's
Yeah,
gnarly.
he does.
If
He
he
beats him
didn't
to a
go that
pulp.
hard, yeah, like it would happen again essentially. So he had to
Yeah.
basically make a lesson, an example out of Moose.
And
Um,
a spectacle for the crowd.
hmm Yeah. And so, um, yeah, poor Robin, like, cause he would have like done really good WWE or something,
Yeah.
like, a really good career. I don't know, but we're now with Vince, right? We're now with Vance, and he's playing at the pinball machine.
Oh, are we?
Are we? Am I not? Am I not? Maybe not. Well, because the whole Moose and Robin scene happens, and then what's Gwen and um Finn get out of there because she's like, "Let's go." Um,
They're
and then
talking about the grabber.
yeah, because they're talking about him and how he got Pinball Vance or something like that. So it kind of does like a little,
Oh,
um,
like a flash to him. I must have missed that. Because I just said like, yeah, they're talking about the grabber and she's like, "What? Are you afraid to say it?" And he's like,
mhm,
"No, like I'm not." And she's like, "Are you chicken?" And
yeah,
he's just like, "I'm not going to say it." And she's like, "You know it's not real. Like he can't hear you." But then behind them, the black van pulls up. And I
hmm
was like, "Ooh, ask and he shall appear."
yeah, because he's kind of always in the background, just kind of like lurking.
Yeah.
Um,
I wonder how long he had been like. I mean, I know that he was going to take Robin first, so maybe he was casing out Robin at that point,
hmm
like in the fight kind of
yeah.
thing. Or I wonder like if he already had his sights on, like if he
Well,
planned this out or if it just was like right place, right time kind of thing. I feel like he knew their routes.
he did. Well, because I also feel like, but also the only one that trips me up is Bruce because he didn't seem like a troublemaker, but it seemed
Yeah.
like he was picking troublemaking type of kids because he wanted them to play, naughty boy essentially
Naughty
because
boy.
he knew
Yeah.
that they might, I guess, act out or do what he would want them to do. But
Which is so twisted.
yeah, so because it did seem a bit targeted, not just super as random, but um he also didn't necessarily have a type though, because I mean there was Bruce and Robin, and then there was that other bigger kid, and then like a younger kid. So there
Yeah,
was definitely
definitely
variation.
age range, different ethnicities. Like he
hmm
didn't discriminate.
Yeah, I guess that's
Good
one
for
good
him.
thing. But we have an ethical serial killer.
Yay.
Yay. And so we have them at school, right? Because all of that was going on and they're at school, and then Finn's at school, and then the bullies see him and they want to try to
Yeah.
like go after him. And so he's trying to evade some bullies, and he ends up going to a restroom, but they end up finding him in there anyways. And that's whenever thankfully Robin comes in and we get the whole conversation about how he had to draw blood and his teeth were fucking sharp.
Yeah.
hmm
And I was like, nice, got protected by the cool kid.
hmm
Um and they had cool soap dispensers again.
Oh yeah, the
All
goblet style ones.
Yeah. I just
hmm
love all them soap dispensers. I want one. I'm gonna look on eBay.
You probably could find one, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And so we get this conversation between Robin and Finn, and you can tell they have a bit of a mutual friendship because Finn has tutored Robin, and so Robin is asking him again for a little bit of help. And Robin is also kind of giving Finn some advice because he's just like, one of these days, which comes back later, he's like, you're gonna have to stand up for yourself. You can't let people run over you. And
Yeah.
Finn is just like, I know, like I will, like, and so it's just a really kind of cute little bonding moment because they're also talking about like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie
Yeah.
and some other
How he's like,
movie.
I'm gonna go see it at the drive-through, and
Hmm.
like, yeah, and then they're talking about Bruce Lee movies and stuff, and yeah, it was a nice humanizing moment for both of them.
Yeah. And
And
then we cut to Gwen, right?
yep, we have the detectives talking with Gwen, asking her about her dream. And
Yeah.
she fucking,
She eats them
I
up.
wrote, yeah, Gwen is feisty. Um, because apparently she told the
Bruce's
Bruce's
sister.
sister
Hmm.
that she saw black balloons in a van when like Bruce got taken, and they were like in her dream,
Hmm.
and they said, how do you know that there were black balloons? Like, we found black balloons at the scene, and that's something that we haven't disclosed yet to the media, so there's no way you could have known unless like you're a witness or.
Hmm.
And then she was like, oh, what, I'm the fucking grabber, your fucking butt munches, like just
Yeah.
going off on them.
It's so cute because she's like going off and she's just in her little pint-sized little form. And even
Yeah.
the principal is like, Gwyneth, like
Gwendolyn,
you better
or whatever
not,
her
or
name
calm
is.
down. Yeah. And they are, and even I love how they don't retaliate. So it's kind of fun. It's just even better because they're just kind of like letting her go off and kind of
Yeah.
just do her little thing. Because they just are still talking to her and she's just like really letting them have it, as they should, as she should. And after their little conversation with her, that doesn't necessarily
They ask her
lead.
like, what are you not telling us? And she goes,
Hmm.
well, sometimes my dreams are right. And so like we can get like, oh shit, she might be kind of psychic at this
Yeah.
moment, and you can kind of tell that maybe these powers will come in handy later on.
Hmm. And we cut to Gwen and Finn walking home after school, and she's telling Gwen that she's gonna go stay over at her friend's house. So he is like, all right, I'll keep an eye on dad. Like he's gonna be at home with dad for, it's Friday night, I guess, going into Saturday.
Yeah.
And I guess this is the thing that she does every weekend because she brings it up because he's like, "Oh wait, where are you going?" She's like, don't you remember? Like I'm staying over at Bubba. It's Friday." So we're
Susie's.
getting Susie. So we're getting this set up so that way we know that like every Friday going into Saturday, she is gonna be going to Susie's house. And we end up. It's the next morning, and oh well, that night Finn is at home and he's watching scary movies because his dad passed out and he falls asleep, and when he wakes up
Yeah,
it's
I
the next
wonder
morning
what
already.
scary movie that was.
I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, me
What was
neither.
it?
I have
I
no
don't
clue.
think it was I don't think it was, yeah, something popular that we knew. Um, but this is the next morning, right? And then the dad is with Gwen in the kitchen and this is the scene, he's beating her
Yeah.
with the belt, right?
Yeah, because
Mhm.
he wakes up to hearing like a scuffle, and he's like, oh my God, and goes
Mhm.
in, and dad is just wailing on Gwen.
And he's
And
asking her
with
like
the
what she
belt.
told the cops because he's like, why are the cops asking questions? Like what did you tell them? What's going on?
Yeah. And
Mhm.
then he then all of a sudden like changes gears, and he's like, you're not your mother, and your dreams, they're just fucking dreams. And so at this point you can kind of like start to piece together that okay, mom might have been like a psychic too,
Mhm.
and had special powers that let her see things that maybe she didn't want to see, and possibly ended up with her ending her own life, because we find
Mhm.
out later that she took her own life.
Yeah. Maybe she saw like someone's future she didn't want to die or something like
Yeah,
that.
maybe she saw
Her
Finney's
own death.
future.
Yeah.
And
Maybe.
like saw him trapped and like couldn't handle it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
A lot of speculation. Maybe we'll get some of that answered in the Black Phone too.
Yeah.
Hopefully. And so we are, watching this horrible beating of Gwen happening, and she grabs the vodka bottle and she's like threatening her dad to drop that she will drop it if he doesn't stop beating her. And he's like, I'll beat you harder if you do. And so she drops it. And,
Kind of because
um,
he lunges at her and I think it scares her and
yeah.
she like reflexes
Hmm.
and her hand snaps open on the bottle too.
And so he makes her then like verbalize out loud that her dreams are just dreams, like you said, and that they're not real. And so after all of that, um we cut to Robin, and he is walking outside of what it seems like the back of a mall or something. I don't know.
Yeah, some sort of giant concrete building.
Yeah,
And
and the black
I
van is
was,
over there.
yeah, and I was like, oh no, he's gonna get the cool kid.
Yeah, because he does, because Robin goes to the black van, and that's the last we see of Robin.
Yep.
And so
And the TV says emergency
mhm.
as they're watching like a cop show or something.
And the dad gets a phone call, and he's like puts the phone down, and he asks Finn, he's like, "Hey, did you know Robin Ariano?" And he's like, "Yeah, that was my friend." He's like, "Okay, well, um right." He's just, I guess he tells him that he got abducted, or I don't know.
Yeah, but it doesn't
Or
show
they're
us. But
oh, no,
you
no, no.
can
He's asking
infer.
him, like, when's the last time you saw him or something like that. I think that's what it is.
Mm.
Yeah, like, have you seen him? Because he's missing or something like that. And so then it's, Gwen, and she's in her room, and because Robin got abducted, she's asking and praying to, like, Jesus and the universe, and she, like, so cute because she pulls out her little dollhouse, and it's, like, almost like she's about to do a tarot reading.
Yeah,
Because she
she's
has,
got
like,
all of her little amulets.
uh-huh, and so she's just calling upon the divine powers to give her a vision because she wants to help Robin,
Yeah, she's
because
like,
it's
please let
Finn's
me
friend.
find Fenny's friend because, yeah, because earlier she says he was like a good friend or something, and he says, don't say was, he is my friend.
Mhm.
And so, like, we, I don't know, it's like you can kind of tell, like, he's gonna die.
Yeah, and also you can see, like, how, supportive they are and how supportive and caring she is to, like, what she knows is gonna affect Finn, even though it's not even, like, necessarily her friend per se, like, directly, um and so we have her doing her little sequence where she's praying to have a dream and stuff. And then it's the next day. Did she have a dream actually at that point that night?
I don't think she
I don't
has
think
a
so,
dream
right?
this
Not
night
just
because
yet.
it's
Yeah.
just the next day, and those bullies who Robin protected him from are now beating up on Finney.
They're ruthless too.
Yeah, they're kicking him
Because
in the stomach and the head.
and but thankfully Gwen sees this, and she
Fucking
is
comes in hot with a
yeah,
rock.
literally busts this one boy up in the face and like
Yeah.
cuts his ear or something. And
Yeah, he
then
was bleeding kind of bad. I was like, shit, is he gonna die? And I remember thinking that the first time too.
yeah,
Whenever like I watched it, I was like, does this kid die? Like I don't remember. But
yeah,
he
he had
doesn't.
it coming.
He
But
did. He
she
had it coming.
is but then after that, like after she kind of takes him out, the other two boys or one boy like gangs up on her and then like just like kicking her, putting her in the air, and then like she gets
Yeah, he straight up flips
basically
her around.
body kicked, like yeah. Um and then she's like just laying next to the other dude who's bleeding, and they're just watching as like poor Finn is getting beat up.
Beat up.
Mhm.
And then
It's
he gets to school
mhm.
and he's sitting with his crush whenever they ask, like everyone to find a partner because it's frog dissection day, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to split off into groups. And he says, remember, this will be your partner for the rest of the semester or whatever. And
Mhm.
um, she ends up coming up to Finn and is like, hey, do you have a partner? And he's like, yes, or do you need a partner? And he goes, no. And then he's
Yeah.
like, yes, I don't have a partner. Like, he totally butchers it.
Yeah, you can tell he's totally flabbergasted because a pretty girl is talking to him.
Yeah.
Maybe one he already had a crush on. Because after this, I guess Gwen heard about it because she's kind of teasing him as they're walking home from school.
Yeah. She's
Um,
like,
oh, do you need a lab partner? Huffin. And he's just like,
he's
brushing it
cheesing it up,
off.
though.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
was
Oh yeah.
totally blushing.
And then it's so cute and they're having a little brother sister moment again, but then she's like, and then it's Friday again, so she's like, hey, like, all right, have a good rest of your evening, make sure you take care of dad, I'm gonna go over to Susie's. And so at this moment you're already thinking like, oh damn, what's about to happen, because Finn starts to walk home and you can see that like people are like kind of getting taken out of the shot, so he's kind of now walking on the street by himself.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
starts like isolating him, and you're like,
Mhm.
oh,
Yeah, not a good
no,
vibe,
no, no.
because he definitely walks up onto this dude who, is, like, wearing, like a magician stuff clothing, I guess, I don't know, but
Yeah.
yeah, he is trying to make it seem like he's having a hard time with his groceries, and they fall on the floor, and so then Finn, because he's the helpful person he is, tries to go and help this guy, but as he's helping him, he notices that there are black balloons in the. Oh, and also this dude's already giving, like, weird vibes, and we already know, like, "Oh, it's the black
Yeah,
man, so
because
this is the grabber." Yeah,
yeah. So we as the audience know that, but like
Finn don't know, but
Finn doesn't.
he sees
But
the black balloons, though.
yeah, and I mean, I would have been put on edge the moment the guy stopped trying to pick up his groceries and then was like, "I'm a part-time magician. Do you want to see a magic trick?" Like,
Yeah.
I would have been like, no.
What about your eggs, brah? Yeah.
Yeah, them eggs are on the ground.
Eggies, and so, yeah, as soon as he says, "Wait, are those black balloons in there?" Because Finn already knew the detail of the black balloons, right?
Yeah, I don't
Because
know
from Gwen.
if Gwen ever officially told him, but I'm
Mm.
assuming she did.
Feel like he would have known, like, they would have said something about it
Like,
to
they're
each other,
close enough that she would have been like, "I
mentioned
had
it,
this dream." Yeah.
or even, like, if he would have been like, "Wait, what did you tell the cops?" And she's like, "Well, just that I had this dream about black balloons and a black van." I don't know. Um,
Yeah.
but, she
But we never like see her explicitly tell him.
mm-mm. But as soon as he brings up the balloon, the grabber's like, "Yes!" And then he, like, opens the van up and then, like, pulls the black balloons out, so we see that he's basically been taking these kids by, like, pulling black balloons out to kinda hide the fact that he's throwing these
Shoving
children
a
in the
kid.
van, but
Yeah.
also, I don't know what's happened in 1970s, like, chloroform, this,
Chloroform. Yeah.
like, he's,
That he
like,
sprayed
gassing
right
them.
into their mouth.
Yeah.
I'm like, that
Um,
can't have been safe. I mean, it's an aerosol can for starters. Like, you don't
there's
want to huff
already
that.
Yeah, and so he knocks Finn out and he abducts him, and to me, I thought, like, it was so crazy that it was also in, like, just plain daylight, which
Yeah,
I'm sure
every
that happens all the
single
time.
one of the abductions were like in plain broad daylight.
Yeah, and I'm sure that happens probably more often than not, and we're just oblivious to it, but because yeah, but, like, that's just crazy, right? Like,
Yeah,
I
it
was just like,
is.
how did nobody, like, see these? Because these Finn was screaming too, like, he was screaming, like, not just, like, and then and then you see all the balloons and you hear all the shuffle, but I guess they were in such an area that probably the grabber knew that nobody would, maybe it's not a traffic frequent place, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
Um
I'm sure he planned it out to some degree and
Mhm.
knew that this would like be a safe spot to abduct someone. And in this like scuffle, he ends up stabbing him in the
Mhm.
arm with his little
Yeah.
rocket ship
Yeah.
that he has on him at
That
all
was
times.
carrying him. Yeah.
And
Could you
it just yeah, he stabs him in the arm. And then we're
in the
in
basement?
the basement and he's like, I'm gonna snap your neck for what you did to my arm. And he says, he lays him on the bed, and then he like kind of starts coming to, and sorry, he kind of starts coming to, and he sits up on his own, and the grabber says to him, I know you're scared, but I'm not going to hurt you anymore. And it's like, yeah, bullshit. What the
Yeah.
fuck kind of, like, no.
Yeah, especially after all of the whole abduction, and then now I'm kind of trapped in this basement. It doesn't seem very promising, especially since none of the other children have been found as well. So,
Yeah.
like, Finn already knows like who this person is. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So it's just not looking too great right now. But the grabber is also. Oh, hold on. Let me go. Hmm. It's funny because as soon as I would get up, they'll stop, right?
Yeah.
But um Finn is having to the dude, the grabber, sorry, he's already like just like not he's trying to like present like he's not gonna hurt him, he's gonna be his friend, but Finn is already very skeptical of the fact that, the situation is not looking good for him.
Yeah.
And
Because
he's also
he's
wearing the
like,
mask.
yeah, he's got this big mask on, and it's like, yeah, that's terrifying. But and he's like, I'm gonna get you a soda. You like soda? Kind of thing.
Hmm.
And then he's like, do you hear the phone ringing? And he's like, I'm gonna go see who that is, but like after that, I'll get you a soda.
Yeah.
And then that draws him out of the room. And then we see the phone on the wall. Oh, and we get his little rocket ship, which almost saved him had he been able to like stab harder or
Hmm.
like fuck him up more. Um, but then we see the phone on the wall, this black phone. Roll credits.
That's it. That's the movie.
That's the movie.
And the grabber, he tells him like, "Oh, that phone, it doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
Like it hasn't
And
worked since I was a kid or something like that. One time I was down here and I thought I heard it, but I didn't really hear it."
yeah, and it's got a cut cord.
Mhm.
And then we kind of flash to Gwen getting the call that her brother's missing after he goes back upstairs.
Mhm.
And that's really emotional. She did a great job of portraying, just like, we didn't have to hear the phone call to see what she was being told.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have other context clues, like we know he was abducted, so we know what this phone call's got to be about. But
Yeah.
like, she did a great job portraying it on her face, like the shock, it turning into horror, and
Mhm.
like then just needing to get home.
Yeah, going home and then praying immediately so that way she could get some sort of vision to help her brother. So at this point, I'm sorry, I had kind of skipped ahead. This is whenever the grabber's telling Finn like how the black phone doesn't work, and it
Yeah.
hasn't since he was a kid. And this is whenever the grabber is telling Finn that no matter what he does, he can't escape, and that this room is soundproof, and no matter how hard he yells, nobody will be able to hear him. And um,
And he says, I'll never make you do anything that you won't like.
mhm,
And he's got this like real calming kind of like, almost like he's talking to a child
yeah,
voice that he's using. And then he's like, he says something about like, I'll scratch your face. And so that, like, he was like, if you tried to touch me, I'll scratch your face. And so that
mhm,
way people will know and ask and be like, what is going on? And he goes, oh, this face. And
yeah,
like, it's the iconic scene from the black phone that
mhm,
I used in the GIF on our story the other day
yeah.
to say that we were going to be covering this.
Yeah, because all throughout the film, he's changing, he's using different masks um, in various stages, I guess, of this being like kind of a ritual for him, almost, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because he's got like the full mask, he's got like a half mask, he's got his painted face that he wears like
Hmm.
when he's not wearing the masks, like because his face had some sort of like white cast makeup on it whenever he abducted him. You couldn't really
Mhm.
see his face clearly, but you could see it just enough to tell that like he had makeup on.
Yeah. And so, as they're, having this conversation and stuff, um, what he leaves him again because then he's like, oh, I think at this point the grabber makes the mistake of saying like he won't be able to hear you. And so Finn immediately picks up on that and he's like, wait, like, is there someone up there, a man or something like that? But the grabber, I think, like just dismisses it pretty fast. So it's like a
Mhm.
really subtle like hint because that kind of comes back later on, obviously,
Yeah.
in a big kind of reveal way. Because that was also a layer that I was like, honestly, if that wouldn't have been in the film, it still would have been a, like pretty like it still would have flowed the same way if that makes sense. But it was just another layer of like, damn, like that's so like um what's the word? Kind of like not complicated, but like how like even, this is kind of giving like what's her face? What's that one movie that we just watched? Daddy Legs or Long Legs?
Along
How he
like
was how he was underneath her house the entire time, or her mom's
yeah.
house. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, just a little twist like that, but, we
Yeah,
have
and it helps make you suspicious of Max whenever you see Max,
mhm, mhm.
or suspicious of his brother.
Yeah, and also just, like, um, there's so many what's the word? Because even on this, even with this abduction, there's something different about it, right? Because even from the get, it does seem like the grabbers, like, kind of, like, not being maybe himself or like there's something throwing him off.
Yeah.
And I think also the addition because he did say like he was afraid that like we get like with the kid saying later like he's afraid his brother might find him out like he's getting close. And so I think that adds to more of like the grabbers kind of not thinking in the way that he would normally do things and why he gets caught because he just feels the pressure, right? Closing in on him from every angle, probably. And so, anyways, cutting back to where we are, Finn's in the room and the black phone rings.
Yes.
And he's like kind of freaked out by it. And when he answers it, does anybody talk to him at this point?
No, because the
No.
black phone rings once before he says it doesn't work because he like
hmm
answers it. And that's when he comes in and says, like, it doesn't work. It hasn't since I was a kid. And but then it rings again and no one's there.
Yeah.
And then he's like sees the phone breathing,
hmm
or
That
it's like
part did trip me up in the movie.
expanding and like yeah, like he's like
It's like
on some
warping.
hallucinogenic or something. Um, but yeah, it looked like it was breathing, and
And it does that multiple times throughout the film. So
yeah,
I don't necessarily know what they were trying to say by that.
I
If that
feel
makes sense.
like that that's I feel like maybe it was just letting him know that he's not alone and like that the other people are there with him
Yeah.
and
Well, and
like
I
they're
guess
alive through him.
we do have this having supernatural elements because obviously Gwen's psychic. So
Yeah.
I guess it wouldn't be far fetched to think that like in this universe or world that like there might be objects that are conduits or whatever, or like portals, maybe even. And maybe that's what he was seeing. Like,
Yeah.
uh-huh. But yeah, we cut to then like what he like maybe fell asleep for a little bit and then like the dude walks back in and he's just like, I just wanted to look at you.
Yeah. Yeah,
Kind
he
of being
said
creepy vibes.
he was like, "Why are you here?" Because he
hmm
asked like, "I'm hungry," and he's like, "I can't bring you anything to eat." And then he was like, "Then why are you here?" And he says, "Just to look at you. I just
Yeah.
wanted to look at you." And it's like, ugh,
Yeah, because this is an old man and this is a child.
yeah. And it's like that's creepy. But then the phone rings yet again,
hmm
and someone speaks this time, and I believe they say Fenny.
Yeah.
They say his name, and so he freaks out, hangs up, and then someone calls back and it is just ringing without stop, like not like a normal ring. It was just like one
hmm
continuous ring. And he answers and he says like hello. And the person on the other line says something about, or he goes, "Who is this?" And he goes, "I don't know." And he
Mhm.
says, "What's your name?" And he says, "It's the first thing you lose. Like, I don't remember my name." But then we find out that he's talking with Bruce because he says something about, "I used to play baseball." And he's
Mhm.
like, "Oh, Bruce." And then he says, "Yeah, Bruce." And he kind of goes on to say, like, "Your arm is meant. You almost had me."
Yeah, and he'll repeat that a couple more times, kind of like almost like a
Like he's
CPU
stuck
or
in a loop.
stuck on a loop, yeah, like a ghost loop. But he does also have enough cognizance to tell him like, I if you look underneath one of the tile in front of the toilet or something like that, right? Like I started to dig a hole, but I didn't get to go far enough before he killed me, essentially.
Yeah.
So I need you to dig, and it's kind of essentially helping him to kind of find a way out slash just some type of way to help him because it doesn't provide a way out later, but it does definitely provide help in aiding him to get out. And so, yeah, he tells him to just dig to fill up the. No, I guess he didn't tell him to do that. Finn just comes up with that, like, right? He starts to just put the dirt
Yeah.
into the
Finn's just smart.
and just starts flushing the dirt. Yeah.
Flushing the dirt. Yeah. But he does tell him that the grabber hears the phone too.
Oh
He
yeah.
just doesn't think it's real.
Hmm.
And then he says, "I'm glad it's you."
Hmm.
And then we start getting, um,
Gwen.
yeah, we get a dream sequence of
Hmm.
like sweet baby Bruce, um, learning to play basketball and stuff, or
Oh
baseball. I
yeah.
know my sports balls. And playing baseball, and then going up, and then all of a sudden it pops to her brother screaming at a door.
Yeah.
And because we see like the montage of like Bruce getting taken and stuff like that. And so, and then it's her brother screaming at a door. And so she heads out.
And she's gonna go and kind of look to find this door, because that's what Gwen does. She's very proactive. And at the
Yeah.
same time, we cut back to Finnicus, and he is digging, and putting the dirt in the toilet and creating this big, massive hole, um, in the floor. And at the same time, he starts to hear that someone's coming back. So he starts to cover everything up. He's putting everything back. And when he goes back to the bed just in time, the grabber is here and he brought him breakfast. He brought him eggs, I think,
Yeah.
and scrambled eggs. And one, Finn is already kind of like, I don't know if I want to eat that. But as the grabber leaves and exits the room because he says he's got to go take care or do something, he leaves the door open, like very visibly, like just unlatched, unlocked, like just leaves it open. So Finn
Yeah.
is like, huh. Hmm.
I loved the line whenever he was like, "What did you put in it?" And he's like, "Salt
Yeah.
and pepper." Hee hee
Yeah.
hee.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Nice." And then he's like, "You're already down here. What do I need to drug you for?"
Hmm.
Um, but
Which I'm
when he
like, for a
leaves
lot
the
of things.
door open, yeah, I'm like, you could still drug him, especially now that you're
And
leaving the
like,
door open.
right. And then come back and do worse things. Like, what? No. Anyways.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But he does leave the door open. And as soon as Finn gets to the door, the phone starts to ring. And he goes and answers the phone. And
Hmm.
he is immediately met with the "Don't go up the stairs. It's a trap."
Yeah. It's a
And
trap. He's gonna be waiting for you, sitting on a chair, and he's gonna wanna play this game called Naughty Boy.
naughty boy.
Mhm.
And we find out that he's talking with Billy, and then
Yeah.
Billy appears behind him. He can't really
Excuse
see
me.
Billy, but we can see Billy.
Mhm.
And he is yet again just warning him not to go up the stairs, and he says he'll beat you with the belt till you pass out.
Mhm.
And then he like doesn't listen and goes up the stairs, but stops before he gets all the way up.
Mhm.
But we do pan outside, and we just see the grabber sitting there shirtless and legs like spread. And he's just like, it was gross. I was
Yeah.
like, this feels, and then like with the belt in hand. I
Mhm.
don't know. I was
No, yeah.
like,
It
ugh.
was taking it to a really dark place.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I mean, Finn is just like a little kid, a boy, and then like we have this grown man who fully knows what he's doing, and he's just basically setting up Finn to come into a trap, and to be abused in whichever way is horrible. So it's just not um thankfully, Finn didn't go up. He heeded the warning from Billy and he didn't go up. And so he stays down in the basement. And also, because you're thinking also as a viewer, like, damn, like, what would I even do? Right? Because it's like you want to leave, but then it's like, is it even worse if I try right now, you know?
Yeah. And then like,
And,
am I fucking hallucinating talking on the phone with all these dead people? Like,
right? Is that even
what if
real?
he's not really up there? And what if I just
Yeah.
miss my chance to escape? Like,
And,
there's so
and,
many factors.
hmm and so I think at the same time, um, at this is like that's happening, right? We get Gwen as she's like having a dream of what happened to Billy when he was a little kid, essentially,
Yeah,
or how he got abducted, I think. It's like a flashback slash dream.
almost. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're almost there. He
Oh.
like is eating the eggs and the soda when the phone rings again.
Mm,
And then
mhm,
I believe it's Billy yet again. And like the bottle is like pointing to the grate near the ceiling. And he's
mhm,
like, look, like, cause he says, like, by the way, I left a rope um along the like in between, there's a gap between the floor and the
mhm,
wall. And he's like, I left a rope there. And he goes, and he's like, what am I supposed to do with the rope? And then the bottle like starts spinning and then it points to the grate on the ceiling. And then he's like, oh, and then yeah, we're with Gwen having the dream about Billy's abduction now.
mhm. And so we can see that,
And he
the
was the
grabber's
paper
been
boy.
yeah, been at this for a while, and he took Billy, and so we wake up from this, and these are all just kind of dreams that are kind of helping Gwen to piece together, the mystery of how to find, um, Finn. And we cut to then Finn like using the cord to get the grate off of the window, which he is smart because he can't really get it up there at first, but then he uses these carpets that are in there and he snakes up the cord and it goes around and it comes back down. He's able to pull off the grate, which was pretty uh, I mean, it's what he wanted to do essentially, right? Was to pull off the grate.
Yeah, I think he was, yeah, either
Or
trying to just open the
the
window
window, right? But he only got
to,
to pull off the grate.
but he only got to pull off the grate.
Yeah, yeah.
And but the grate
Also hit
comes in
himself really
handy.
hard.
Yeah, I know. I was worried he would be unconscious after that and that the grabber would find him like that and
Mhm.
then be mad.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, he pulls the grate off and it comes in handy for him later.
Mhm.
But then
Gwen is with dad, I think.
yeah, talking with dad, and this is where we learned that the mom took her own life.
Mhm.
Um, and he's like, you can't be thinking like I'm just worried about you. Like I don't want you to go down the same path that she did.
Mhm.
And she's like, but what if my dreams are right? And
Yeah.
I have a lead on where Billy, or sorry, not Billy,
Or
where
Finn.
Finney is.
Mhm.
And so then he listens. So we got a little breakthrough, and he's driving her around, and they're looking for the house.
Yeah. They're looking for it, and this is whenever, the cops, I think, kind of are doing, like, a check-in or something, and they end up showing up at, um,
The correct house.
the correct house right now. I'm trying to remember, why are we at the correct house right now? Was it from a tip from Gwen? Or they're just randomly
I
at this
think they
house,
just randomly showed up.
right? Because 'Cause they're just asking neighbors for, like, "Hey, if you see anything," like
Yeah.
mhm,
And then Max invites them in, and he's like,
that's
well,
what it
look,
is.
I've got all this information on them. Like, I've have deduced that the killer has to be somewhere around this point,
Mhm,
and or the grabber. And we like Max is just kind of going off because we later see that, well, he's doing cocaine.
yeah, he's strung
Um,
out. Mhm.
Yeah. And so because the cops are like, you might want to clean that up. Because I
Mhm.
believe in 78 cocaine was still like legal
Was it? Or like
and
under certain like you could have only so much.
circumstances. Yeah.
I'm gonna look it up
Yeah, look it up.
in 3, 2, 1. Yeah, it became illegal in 1970. So it was
19,
illegal
so
at
it
that.
was
Yeah.
illegal. They
Yeah,
just
yeah,
let him
yeah.
have it.
Mhm. I think they were like, well, it's a white guy, probably they were just like,
Yeah.
yeah, had
I
and
knew
maybe
it
a
was
different person.
sometime pretty late though. Like the 70s is not like
Too
that's
far back, yeah.
yeah. And
Um,
so they're like, you might want to clean up for your brother gets home. And that was when like I remember being like, ooh, who's this
oh,
brother?
yeah, because it's a very big, the story writers want you to know that, like, this is his brother's house, he's just here visiting, like, da 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 da, like,
Yeah.
it's mentioned a lot, and then, Max is just, giving crazy conspirator vibes, but we go from that because then, um as they're pulling away and it's leaving and we have Max on the couch and he's just like doing more cocaine. The camera pans out as it's going down and we see that, oh, this is the motherfucking house.
Yeah.
Ben is
He's
literally
right above there.
downstairs in the basement. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
it's
really
like,
trippy.
ah.
Hmm.
But then the grabber comes back
Hmm.
and he asks Finney for his name and is like, I normally don't care, but he's like, I normally find out eventually when it's all printed in the paper. And I don't know why like, Finney decided to lie
To
about his
lie.
name
Yeah.
when, like, of course he's probably in the paper. And
When everybody else went missing and in the paper like within days.
yeah. And
Hmm.
so he asked for his. If you were watching on video, Josh just like Findolin. What's her name? You're on mute. It muted you.
Penelope.
Penelope.
Yeah.
Penelope just obliterated his setup.
Literally, my coffee fell, but I caught it. My water bottle fell. Thankfully, it's locked, so it's not spilling everywhere. And then
Okay.
this went, but thankfully, I guess I pushed mute on the catch, so it wasn't too
Yeah.
loud. Hopefully,
Yeah, it was just one little
bleep.
blop.
Um,
But yeah, he asks for his name. He lies about his name, and then he drops the food whenever he says his name, and
mhm.
he says, "I was really starting to like you, Finney," and throws the paper at him.
Yeah.
And he undoes it and sees that he's on the front page.
So the grabber really doesn't like liars, apparently. But he doesn't draw the line at kidnapping or serial killing. Just liars, because Finney's been pretty good this whole time. Um, you know, for what good can be as you're being held captive.
Yeah.
And yeah, so he's like, I was gonna let you go. But he decides that he's not going to now because I guess this is his justification for Vinny like lying is him being a naughty boy, I guess. And so um at this point the phone rings again, right? But the grabber hears it, right?
Um,
Or maybe
I
not.
don't know. I
Mm,
have that he's waiting again, and then he's using his rocket ship as a flashlight
mhm.
throughout the room. And I was like, I remember something popping up,
Well,
but it
because
was so anxiety inducing.
there's like a floating kid at one
Yeah,
point. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. And he's like,
And
ah, it's like a jump scare almost.
yeah, it was so
Mhm.
like anxiety inducing to watch the flashlight come like blip over to a new spot. And then I was like, oh, I know something's gonna pop up. And then
Mhm.
there's like this kid in like a back bend
Yeah.
bleeding from the face. And it was kind of a scary sight.
Yeah,
So we
and I
got a
believe
little jump scare.
his name is Griffin, the kid that he's talking to.
Yeah, because that's who
Mhm.
we hear from next when the
Mhm.
phone rings again and Griffin says, "You don't have much time." And he
Yeah.
says, you have to play the game. And this
This is when
time,
we get Naughty Boy. Yeah.
yeah, and he goes, naughty boy. And he goes, and the next part of naughty boy is his favorite part. And it's like, and I think that's like when you get killed.
Yeah, I think so. And so the door is still unlocked, I believe, at this point
Yeah.
because the grabber is kind of giving Finn another chance to escape and play the whole game. But Griffin on the phone is like, "Look, like this is your chance. He is upstairs, but he is asleep right now. He fell asleep waiting for you to come out, so you can leave now." The thing is, though, is that when you get to the door, up top there is a combination, and he's like, I wrote it on the wall, and then Finn sees it and it's 23317. But Finn then is like, what's the combo? Is it like 23317, or is it like 23317, or because there's could be a various amount of different combinations because it's one of those turn dial locks
Yeah.
that
Because
you
it
have
was
like in a
his,
high school locker.
yeah, it was his bike lock, is what he said.
Okay. And
Um,
so
and that's why he wrote the combination on, and that's how he knew the combination, because it was his bike lock.
got it. And so Finn is able to get up the stairs and he's able to get past the grabber, even though it's like a super like tense scene.
Ugh,
And as he gets
this scene
to,
stressed me out so much.
oh yeah,
I
because
was
the
like,
grabber
because you
is
can see his
definitely
little face in the background.
hamming it up, yeah,
Yeah.
of like moving just a little bit to make it seem like, is he getting up? Is he not? And then Finn at the door is having a hard is doing the lock, right? And
Yeah.
he's
He
doing
gets
it,
it on the
and the whole
third try.
he gets it on the third try, and then he finally gets out, and we're like, yes, but at this time the grabber wakes up because he hears him,
And
and then
Samson, the dog, starts barking.
that's right. And so because of this, the grabber goes and starts chasing after him. And they unfortunately Finn doesn't make it that far. He only makes it like down the sidewalk. And as he's screaming and stuff and the neighbor's lights come on, the grabber jumps from behind and grabs him and they go to the ground. And he pulls out a knife on him. He's just like, if you scream, I will like kill you right now. I will slit
You
your
say
throat.
one fucking word and I'll gut you like a pig and strangle you with your own intestines.
Yeah, it's pretty
That's what
wild.
he says. And
And
it's like,
so
damn.
And so then, Finn doesn't make a noise and the lights go off. Everybody starts minding their own business. And he takes him back into, the basement. Yeah. And at this point, then um this is whenever for some reason I have
This was my favorite scene because then it's Gwen going, Jesus, what the fuck?
that's
Seriously,
literally
what the hell is wrong with you?
tell me why. I'm like, why do I have this thing that just says Jesus? Can you see it? Hold on.
Yeah, yeah.
Jesus, what the fuck? Because I'm like, why is that my next note? But yes, it's Gwen. You're
And
right.
that was my next note too. And Max wakes up from the everything that was going on too. But then yeah, we flash to Gwen and she's like, Jesus, what the fuck? Seriously, what the hell is wrong with you? And then she's
Yeah.
like, maybe you're not even real.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah,
but
because she's
it
like
was just
basically
so
trying to,
funny.
yeah, because she's like, I know you don't interfere, but like you do. So like, why are you letting this happen? Like, you should like give me a
Yeah,
fucking
you're
dream.
giving me these dreams, so you interfere to some extent.
hmm And so she's having a real, very deep convo. And then at the same time, we have Finn in the basement, and the phone rings, and now it's I think it's Pinball Vance or someone named Vance Hopper, because then he's
Yeah,
like,
it is.
yeah, he's like, today's the day, motherfucker. Like, today's the day. And so this is warning essentially Finn, like, hey, like, today's the day he's gonna try to kill you. And then also us as the audience, I think we kind of take it more as like, today's the day is like for the grabber, like, today's the day for the grabber to get his comeuppance.
Yeah.
Um, and we have Gwen having finally another dream, and it's of the house number.
Yeah, it's Vince playing pinball
Mm,
and he's like he's about to beat his high score and then this kid bumps into the machine, makes the ball go into the back underneath the levers,
hmm
and so he loses. And so he starts like beating up these kids and then he carves a 7741 onto that kid's arm. But if that wasn't
Mhm.
enough, Gwen then gets into the back seat of the cop car with him,
Oh yeah.
and they drive past this house, and it's 7741 is
Mhm.
the house number that we see. And she gets out and is like got a clear view of this house. And we realize that like that, I mean, we don't know this yet, but like she now has the house. And so we're thinking that like this is going to come to an end soon.
Mhm. And so she's got that information. And we're back with Finn, and I believe like this is whenever he gets another phone call. Um, and I can't remember which kid it's telling him, but like basically that there is a freezer on the other side of the wall.
It's still Vince.
It's still Vance? Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And he's telling them that he needs to get through the wall because there's a freezer on the other side, and if he breaks through it, like he can get out through the other side essentially.
Yeah.
Um, mhm. And so it's kind of like essentially they're all trying to give him ways to get out, and these ways never really quite pan out, but they all kind of like
They all
in
come
the end
together and
in the
help.
end, yeah. It's very Sucker Punch. It's very like the 5 keys to getting out: fire, key, map, and
Yeah.
then, whatever, the last one is you. But, yeah, they're trying to help him escape, and so he's able to, like, get through one, also, I thought it was pretty fucking, like, legit that he's, like, able to get through this concrete wall by using the back of
Ceramic
the ceramic
toilet.
toilet thing. And
Yeah.
also, I just thought it was really cool that I mean, I don't know how realistic it is, but he was able to make a perfect square. Did you see that? Like,
Yeah,
it was
I found that to be incredibly unbelievable
yeah, it was, like, perfectly, like, square. I was like,
because
"How?"
it was like a continuity error because it like was a circle and then all of a
Right?
sudden I guess I don't know if it was like they just didn't show him like etching out the square, but
Yeah,
like all of
like
a sudden it
Michelangelo.
was like a little circle with a hole that he could like kind of reach through, and then all of a sudden it was a big square. And I
Yeah.
was like,
I don't think he had that much
um,
time,
yeah,
and also the proper tools, but, yeah, now it's a square, and he is
with
able
like
to
sharp
then
corners.
yeah, he is able to and he finds something. I can't remember what it was, but he
He
finds
uses
something.
like a washer from the toilet,
Okay, and he's able to start unscrewing the
like
metal
a little
backing
screw. Yeah.
into the freezer, and he's able to get through the freezer, but unfortunately, the other side of the freezer is locked, so he cannot get out. So kind of a failed attempt, but definitely helps out later,
Yeah.
because once he can't get out, and he's kind of having like anyone would, this kind of breakdown moment of like losing kind of hope for a moment. He's crying. He
In
gets
the
another phone.
corner.
Yeah, he gets another phone call, and it's from his buddy. It's from Robin.
I put, "Aw, Robin." And he
Yeah,
says, "Don't cry." And he's like, "I'm not crying."
yeah,
And then he's like, "Yes, you are,
yeah.
but it's fine." And he's like, "I've been with you this whole time."
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "We all have." And he goes, "And I'm not coming home either." But he says, "But I'm not going to leave you behind."
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, damn, did you cry here?
Yeah, I think I did. Yeah, I
Okay.
think I did
I was like,
because
because this part is sweet. I could see why you would cry here.
yeah, because Robin is basically like telling him like I
Low
couldn't make
key, I
it.
ship them.
Yeah, no, same, right? But
I mean, they're
le-
too young, but like to like have a blooming romance later on.
yeah, they what's his name? Robin. Robin is basically like, I wasn't able to like stay alive, but I'm gonna teach you and help you because you're gonna be the one. Like you gotta take him out and you gotta make it out for all of us,
And he's like,
essentially.
Remember the last thing I told you?" And he was like,
Hmm.
"See the Texas Chainsaw Massacre?" And he was like, "Before that."
Hmm.
And he was like, "No." And he's like, "Someday you have to stand up for yourself." And he was like, "But if you couldn't take him, like, how can I?" And he was like, "You've always been a fighter. Like, you never threw a punch, but you sure knew how to took one, and you always got back up."
Yeah.
And he's like, "I don't want to die for nothing. I want to have died for a friend to like help him get out."
Yeah. And so he's telling him the phone on the wall, like grab some dirt and pack it in and make sure it's really dense and heavy. And he's telling him, like, teaching him basically how to like punch like a boxer essentially. So he's just like telling him, like, you go one, I don't remember, like two, two,
You
one or
raise the
something.
phone, take a step back, step forward, step back, and swing.
Hmm. And so he's gassing him up, one, but he's also giving him instructions on how to use his phone to be able to beat the grabber whenever he comes in. And so all this is happening, and at the same time, Gwen finds the house finally, and so they call the cops, and so now all the cops are here at this house, and so it turns into a crime scene. And then there's so much happening within this last like 20-ish minutes, because then like Max at the same time is like figuring out, like, holy crap, like,
Yeah,
from
he
his
has like a high
epiphany
he
moment, a light bulb comes
yeah.
on. Yeah, because he's just sitting there and he's like dumbfounded because he's like, "What the fuck?" And then he's like looking at the map, and then he starts to go downstairs into the basement, and then he opens up the door and he's like, "Oh my god, I fucking knew it!" And then he's just talking to Finn, because Finn was there ready to beat the grabber. Like, Finn is ready to attack, and then he's like, "Who are you?" And then he's like, "Oh." Max is so like nonchalant about everything,
Yeah.
because he's just like, "You're gonna like freak out. This is the wildest story." But before he can even get anything out, he gets an axe to the fucking head.
Yeah, and did you mention that Gwen found the house?
Yes, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
sorry,
and
I
that the
couldn't
cops were
remember if you
called,
said that. Yeah, the
and that the
cops were
cops.
called,
Hmm.
and
And
she,
so
because
that's
she
all
sees
happening
the
like at the
ghosts of
same
the
time.
boys. She
Hmm.
sees the ghosts of the boys and like falls in front of the house, and it's exactly as she saw it.
Hmm.
Um, and then yeah, freaking Max comes down and he's in the doorway and isn't like rushing to help save the kid, which
Hmm.
is like something's a little off with, I mean, I guess he's strung out on cocaine.
Yeah.
But he's in the middle of like trying to explain it to the kid, to Finn, and then chwap, gets an axe to the head.
Yep. And then at the same time that this is happening, while the cops are upstairs, they're breaking into the house that we think is the house that, all this is happening in. And as they're doing that, we're back with, the grabber, and he's telling Finn, like, "Look what you made me do. Like, you made me kill my own brother." Meanwhile, we're just like, Finn didn't make you do that at all. But
Yeah.
he's blaming Finn. And then he's like, what is he has the axe, and he's like, "What, normally I would just use a knife, but I'm gonna like take my time with you," or something like that, along those lines. Like, "I'm gonna make it
Yeah. He
hurt for you."
says, "But you're special, Finney. I want this to really hurt."
Yeah.
And then he calls on Samson, the dog,
Hmm.
and then
He
they,
ties him up by the door so that way Finn can't like try to run out.
yeah, and
Hmm.
all the while the detectives are pulling up to the house
Hmm.
that Glenn told them about, and they're breaking in, they're going in, and it's like, shit, is this the wrong house, because it's empty,
Hmm.
and they're not hearing any sort of commotion. um
And already off the bat, like, we can tell, like, this is not the house that Max was in. Like, there's no furniture here. Like you said, it's
yeah,
empty. But as they're looking around, they are like, "Wait, hold up. There's like something hidden behind this thing," and it leads to a basement, essentially.
yeah, and then
Mhm.
they
But before that, we're back with Finn, because it's
yeah.
all intersecting, and he is then with the grabber, and the grabber then starts to go for him, I believe.
Yeah, but he runs around the corners, and we saw him earlier setting some booby traps,
Hmm.
and
With the
he,
cord.
yeah, takes the cord, makes the grabber trip and fall into the hole that he dug with the grate inside of it, which makes him break his ankle. And
Hmm.
then he takes the phone and he starts wailing on him a few times, but then he gets caught, and then he is like, gets out of it, and then he starts
Hmm.
choking him with the cord,
Yeah.
and it was like he was choking him out, and then he the phone starts ringing in his hand, and he goes, "It's for you." And I was like, nice,
Yeah, so
nice.
cool. Because then we have all the kids kind of like in chorus in unison, just being like, um, it's like, we're coming for you," or something like that. You're giving
Today's
what
the
you.
day, motherfucker. Like,
Hmm.
Finn's arm is mint, and as he
Yeah.
says mint, he cracks his neck
Yeah, Finn like
and
fucking breaks it.
kills him.
Yeah. And so we have that happening, and then uh, we come to find out that him breaking into the wall and getting to the freezer was good because he's able to get a steak from the freezer and he throws it so the dog it gets distracted and he's able to go out.
I was
Um
so worried that meat was the meat of the boys,
oh, yeah, it could have been,
like
but
that
no, it
he
was
was a
steak.
cannibal. Yeah, I
Yeah.
just remember the first time I watched it, I was like, when he
Oh
like starts
no.
throwing out chunks of meat, I was like, oh my god, because
I
like
think
none of
that
the
would have
bodies had
been
been found,
yeah.
and so I was like, oh my god, they're all in this fucking freezer, and he's cut them up, and that's where
That's
my
would have
mind
been
went.
really even sicker and twisted. I don't know. I
Yeah,
feel
that would have
like
been really dark. I'm
yeah.
glad it didn't go that way. I'm glad the boys'
Um
bodies were recovered
yeah,
because
unfortunately, right?
as this is happening, yeah, they find the bodies of the 5 other missing kids.
In the basement in the other house. So what was happening is essentially somehow the grabber he owns two houses because he was
Yeah,
using
he
the house across the
rich.
street and the one that he is, and so he's killing them in his current house, which is the one that we were in the whole time, and then the other house across the street he was burying the kids in the basement underneath the dirt and stuff. And so kind of like honestly, like I can see how he got away with it for a good while because it was working for him, obviously.
Yeah.
Um,
Except for he was
and
running out of room in that basement.
yeah, and kill too many kids in the same city, like people are gonna start looking and stuff. Maybe he
Yeah.
really should have like spread it out, like time wise, or like really like a kid and then an adult, and then maybe two kids and then like another adult. I don't know. That probably
Yeah.
wouldn't have made it any better. But anyways,
I feel
we
like
are
it had to be children though.
yeah, we have him. Well, obviously, because the writer and director of this film like hates kids. I don't know what trauma he has because even Sinister was about
Sinister's all
kids.
about killing kids too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
and
but
so
yeah.
Finn comes out. Finn walks out as they're all kind of a little like befuddled as to like this isn't the house, but it is the house because obviously the bodies were there. And so Finn comes out from the house across the street, and then his sister sees him and she runs up to him,
And we
and
get a
then
nice emotional reunion with them.
and then we have the cops seeing him, so they all run towards him, and so it's like this nice reunion. They run into the house. The kiddos are on the back of a EMT, and then the dad comes up and he's just like begging them for forgiveness, essentially. And
Then we
yeah,
get a like police or the deputy sheriff guy,
mhm.
head detective saying like getting like a police news footage.
A briefing, yeah.
Yeah, briefing saying we got the recovery of the Blake child and the discovery of the 5 missing children. Um,
Hmm.
and then we've got Finn walking into school and he's untouchable basically because he killed the grabber.
The
And
bullies will not bully him no more.
yeah, he kind of like walks past them. They just look at him and he like smirks. He's like, "Yeah, I killed the grabber, motherfuckers." But then he sits down in science class next to his crush partner, and
Hmm.
she goes, "Hey, Finny," and he goes, "Call me Finn."
Yeah.
And it's like Finn. The movie is Finn.
Yeah, that's what I wrote too, like the end and
Yeah,
then his name. Yeah, but I thought that was also a really cool moment of like showing how much he grew through all of that, and now he's like he ain't gonna take nothing from nobody, as he should.
yeah. And
Yeah,
now he's gonna go after his crush and he's gonna live the life he deserves. Hopefully,
or
until we see
become
in
the
the second
murderer,
movie when he dies.
or become the murderer. He's the next grabber,
Oh, I hope not. That would be so sad.
right? But yeah, that is the
That's
end of Are the Black Phone.
2021's The Black Phone.
And so we yeah, that honestly, do you want to give some fun facts first before we go into our readings? Ratings?
Yes, let
Okay.
me just pull them up really fast
Boom.
because I
No, you're
didn't
good.
have them
While
up
you're
yet.
doing that, I can kind of say like I'm really interested on what The Black Phone 2 is going to be about. It does say that it will be starring Mason, Madeline, Jeremy, and Ethan Hawke as reprising his role,
Hmm.
but with another person being added to the cast who might be the actual villain, I think. Maybe his will be just more like backstory on like why the grabber was the grabber or something.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm intrigued. Well,
Me
guess we'll have to
too.
see it to find out.
October 17th, 2025. Yep, it was actually scheduled to be released on June 27th of this year, but it's been pushed back to October.
For spooky season.
Probably, yeah.
Oh, fun. Well, okay. You ready for fun facts?
Yes, ma'am.
So, the Paperboy is a reference to Johnny Gosh, a case I'm very familiar with. But a paperboy from Iowa who was on a route with his dog Gretchen and disappeared. His dog was found later, but Johnny's disappearance remains unsolved to this day.
Hmm.
So that's really
That's sad.
sad.
Yeah, poor little guy.
Yeah. It says, this is a quote from Scott Derrickson. And he says, I think it's fair to say he's my favorite actor I've worked with about Ethan Hawke. He recalls trying to convince Hawke to do Sinister 2012, despite the actor's protestations that he didn't really like or watch horror.
Mhm.
Hawke had been concerned it would be a dark experience, but Derrickson convinced him that it's actually a lot of fun making horror movies. He had to be convinced once again for this film, but it was because he doesn't really play villains and told Derrickson the script would have to be great for him to sign on. Hawke called back the night after reading it, left a voicemail in the voice of the grabber, and Derrickson knew he had him hooked.
Hmm.
That's kind of
Well,
fun.
I'm trying to think like, well, oh, but that was after because he was also in The Purge, but that was after Sinister, I think, came out.
Yeah.
But I guess, yeah, I guess I've never really seen Ethan Hawke in like a scary movie other than these.
I feel like that's the only thing I've seen Ethan Hawke in.
Right? Ethan Hawke movies.
Anything?
Literally, the only thing is Sinister and The Purge and this movie. I don't see anything else like scary. But I feel like he's on. Yeah, I feel like same.
But
He's
what
more in
else
like
is he
drama
in?
movies. Oh, I mean, he's in. Well, Leave the World Behind. I guess that was kind of scary. He's in The Northman, The Glass Onion.
Oh,
Back in the day, like he was. I mean, he is in like a lot of like older movies and stuff.
I see.
Like Dead Poet Society.
Oh, I do
Um,
remember him in Dead Poets Society, I
he's
think.
like in a Hamlet, The Newton Boys, Great Expectations, Gattaca, Tape, Training Day, Before Sunset, Taking Lives. Um,
Interesting.
what doesn't? Yeah.
Well,
Well, anyways, yes. Go ahead.
that's
Continue.
exciting. Executive producer Jason Blum
Blum.
from the House of Blum sent Scott Derrickson a black phone in a display case after reading the script and giving the film the green light. Derrickson moved into a new house in 2021, and Blum secretly had a black phone mounted on the wall of the new house's basement.
That's scary.
It's terrifying. He said, I was just sitting in my living room and I heard a phone ring in the basement. At that time, he
My bad.
didn't cut
Whichever.
it off before it dropped.
My bad.
He said, I was just sitting in my living room and I heard a phone ring in the basement. And I was like, oh my God. He discovered that Blum had it set to speed dial his cell phone whenever he was lifted from the cradle.
That's sad. That's scary.
Yeah. The grabber donned several creepy masks throughout the film, each exposing different portions of his face. They were designed by the legendary prosthetic makeup artist Tom Savini. Mason Thames said that the first time he saw the mask coupled with Ethan Hawke's bone-chilling performance, he was terrified.
That's cool.
And then the grabber is a clown in a short story, but Hill himself suggested in a post-Stephen King It's world they couldn't keep that and should instead switch him to a magician. Early drafts of the script also described the masks as leather ones with a smile or a frown, but Scott Derrickson knew they'd be the centerpiece of the film's marketing, so he spent a lot of time designing it. So that makes sense. Yeah, if it was a clown, I don't think it would have been as effective.
Yeah, and also like we've seen that in a sense before with kids, like it especially. So that was well, and also I think what with Joe Hill, he
Yeah.
wanted to keep that separate from it being, yeah. So that makes sense, and also just not as scary. And also I really like that. I mean, we only heard him say magician like only like necessarily once, so it
Yeah.
wasn't necessarily like really heavily um spotlight.
He wasn't trying to do a magic trick every scene,
Yeah.
thankfully.
Um
But yeah, ready for boo ratings?
my B rating is a 4.5.
4.5. Yeah,
Yeah. I
that's
think
about where I was sitting,
yeah,
or maybe even a 5 for me.
it's
I don't know. I told Josh before you got on,
mhm.
I was like, probably going to give it a 4.5 or a 5, is what I said. So,
Yeah, because it's got really good writing. The script is really good, like all around. Everybody's parts were really well written. The grabber, Finn, Gwen, even like the delivery and performance that everybody gave as well. Like the dad, um, in the parts whenever he's even having to be like he's an asshole, but we can see like the reason why he is the way he is, and like there's vulnerability there, and like kind of a showing of like um how the family kind of got to where they're at, because Finn is kind of like really shy almost in a way, and like doesn't stick up for himself like he should. And then Gwen is the one who's more like protective, and I would say probably more like extroverted, right? But it's probably been a culmination of like all of the stuff that's happened within their family. And then just the storyline of the grabber and him taking the kids, like it was all paced out very well, and it didn't feel very rushed, and it didn't feel like we were necessarily lacking anything, even though we don't necessarily know why the grabber does what he does, too many details of like the how, or like if the kids were targeted or not, or if these were just like he was just like, well, there's one right there that's pretty, that's easy to get to. Should I just take this one? So with not having like a super amount of lot of details, we're still able to get a story that's super connected, and the way they bring all of the like threads of like Max like being in on the case, the cops, and then like even the supernatural elements of it, like those didn't feel like it took it out of the real world, even though we were dealing with like a breathing phone on the wall and
yeah.
ghost kids. It still felt pretty grounded in reality. And I really enjoyed that Gwen got to play such a pivotal role in like solving and helping the case, because usually it's like just the cops, or maybe they could have just left it all to Finn breaking out, but her part in it really gave the film a lot more like you really fell in love with the kids, like her and Finn, and like you really wanted them to like come out of this.
Yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
I would agree.
Hmm.
This was a recommendation from Kesley
Hmm.
for us to watch, and she said that she didn't give me like a full synopsis on it, but because she said I need to rewatch it to give my
Yeah.
reasonings, but she goes, as of right now, 100% a 5 out of 5 booze.
Hmm.
She was like, this was a fucking phenomenal film. And I'm going to sit in the middle of what I was thinking with a 4.75.
Cool.
Yeah. This film, it's so good. I remember thinking that the first time I watched it too. Like after leaving the theaters, I was like, damn, that was really good.
Yeah.
And I fully watching it a second time, like I still was, I mean, I remembered parts of it, but I haven't watched this like since 2021. So it's been 4 years. So obviously I can't remember yesterday. So I forgot half of the shit that
That's
happens in this
crazy.
film. But yeah, so I just think that Ethan Hawke's performance as the grabber was one of the most unsettling things, just much like Nicolas Cage in Long Legs.
Mm.
Um, just an unsettling villain to the core
Yeah.
because he preys on children and
And
it's disgusting.
he
And
played it very kind of in a way that was like not over the top and just like to where it just almost felt like
is he my friend? Or,
yeah, and also like
but
it
then
gave like
also
that
just twisted
well, and also gave that like type of person that you're like this is like people in the community probably see him out like without the
every
mask and
day.
normal or yeah, and they're just like that's Fred, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
meanwhile he's like killing children. And it's just
Yeah.
like
Which is what, like, I mean, how it happens. Like
yeah,
lots of serial killers, like the Golden State Killer, whenever he was caught, he was a fucking grandpa and like had grandchildren and stuff and
yeah,
and children that
yeah,
he had when he was going out and doing all the killings. And because it was his nephew or something who did the mouse, the DNA testing, like
yeah.
for 23 and
And
Me
didn't
or
know that
whatever.
like his grandpa would be or whatever his uncle would be
Yeah, and they
outed.
linked the
Yeah.
DNA back to him. Yeah. And so it's just so wild to me, like that these people, they're always normal people who can be some of the most twisted individuals. And that's what makes them so scary is their charisma and
Yeah.
their ability to put on this mask figuratively and literally in this film that allows them to, you know,
Mhm.
have this
Get away with it.
divisive personality that allows him to get away with it. And so it's just so it's unsettling to its like very core. And I thought Finney's character was really, you did do a good job of like, you know, rooting for him, making you want to root for him. And like he was smart, he was doing all the things that you would always hope that you would do in a situation like this.
Mhm.
And being, it was like a little camaraderie, like, oh yay, we've got all these boys working together to save the last one and
Yeah.
stuff. And that was so sweet. And with Robin at the end being like, I miss you, bud. And it was like, ugh, ugh.
Yeah. It was
So
a nice way to kind of make it full circle and have also kind of justice for these guys too, because they also in a way got to get their revenge through Finn.
yeah,
And especially being able to it was so satisfying for them like earlier when they were able to tell him like like this is your day like we're getting you back.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so it just overall is a fantastic film. If you've not seen The Black Phone, go do yourself a favor and watch it because it's
Hmm.
engaging from the very beginning and it has you on the edge of your seat, very anxiety inducing in certain scenes, like
Yeah,
making you like wonder. And it's not like, I mean, we do have that one jump scare, but like
I
it's
was gonna
not a
say
scary movie per se. I mean, it's
this is good for
horrifying
people.
that if it could happen to you, but it's not like ooh, spooky ghost.
This is like for people who are don't like super like scary movies or like aren't into gore or necessarily don't like the whole it's a very mild in a way, but not mild because the elements are really dark and deep and like nobody wants that to happen to their kids,
Yeah,
obviously, right?
definitely.
But like it's done in a way where it's like it's not gory and it's not like you're seeing kids being mutilated
Yeah.
and you're not the ghosts aren't too ghosty, so it's not like too supernatural where I know like my sisters would be like I know people who don't like scary movies that are like supernaturals are like I don't like it because it's like demons and like like demonic possession. It's like it's not like that type of supernatural, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Exactly. It's
Hmm.
it's a good, well-rounded horror film that you should definitely watch once in your life or twice because it's really good. And you should watch it again this October to be ready for Black Phone 2 when it comes out.
And watch it with your
Um
kids
yeah,
so
scare
that way
them.
they
So that
know
way they never talk to strangers.
exactly.
Don't help anyone. Fuck politeness.
And if they do end up in a situation like that, they know how to get a phone, pack it in, and.
One step back,
Mhm.
step forward, swing. Yeah, exactly. But that's it for the the Black Phone 2021. So we've got a 4.5 and a 4.75 and a 5.
So that
So
makes it like
roughly,
4.75, right?
yeah, maybe like 4.82.
Okay. I like that
But
math.
yeah, I don't know math. So
That's fine.
but yeah, probably around there. And it as always, we're in the lovely Rogue Media Network studios.
Mm-hmm. They take good care of us all the time, and you can listen to our podcast and many other podcasts because it got so many on roguemedianetwork.com.
That's right. And wherever you do listen to podcasts, there's lots of places you can choose from, but the biggest two would be
Spotify.
and also Apple. And wherever you do listen, don't forget to
Rate, review, like, and subscribe.
That's right, because that's the only way we can get ahead in this world. And then if you want to reach out to us, let us know your thoughts on the Black Phone. People seem to be excited about the fact that we are covering the Black Phone when I posted it. So if you want to let us know your thoughts on the Black Phone, please reach out to us on our one social media platform, which is Instagram, and that is at
BOOBAES, Boo Babes podcast, because we're your Boo Babes, not your Boo Babes. I've messed that all up.
That's okay. Try again.
Oh no, don't. Okay. You can at BOOBAES podcast because we're your Boo Babes, not your Boo Babes. There you go.
There you go. You nailed it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I don't know what we're covering next. Do you? We
No,
probably need to cover
but
Nikki's film.
yeah, we can. It's really funny though because I feel like all of our movies that we have been picking, like in some way, kind of thread to the next film almost.
Yeah.
Like if that makes sense, because like we did Child's Play, and then it kind of threaded into something with the doll. What did we do? Not the doll, but
What did we cover last?
we covered so many movies. After Child's Play, it was
825
Penny
Forest
Stew.
Road.
Well, it was Penny
The Peggy Lane.
Jenny Penn.
Jenny Penn.
Jenny Penn. Peggy Lane. No, it was Jenny Penn. So that was also like a doll
A
element.
doll.
Yeah.
And then we did 825 Forest Lane Road.
And then that transition. Anyways, I feel like they've all been kind of like roughly going into each other.
Yeah.
But we will find out what we will be covering next. Maybe something
and
supernatural.
We'll let you know. Yeah. That would be fun.
Also, I did just watch a movie the other day and I thought it was really good and I thought you would like it a lot, called Companion.
Oh, that sounds vaguely familiar. It's new, right?
It just came out, but it's on streaming. It's free.
Oh.
You don't have on one of them, I don't remember. But
Okay,
it's got
well, let me know.
Jack Quaid, I think that's him.
Yeah.
And Sophie Thatcher. She was in Heretic and like a lot of horror stuff. And she's in Yellow Jackets. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing the commercials, the trailer for it, and being like, that sounds pretty good. Mm-hmm. So I'll have to let me know what platform it's on and I'll go watch it.
I'll let you know. But yeah, so we will let y'all know what we are going to be watching. We'll put it on Instagram like we usually do.
Yep. So until next time, you guys.
Bye, bays.
Bye, bays. Boo Bays.
Boo Bays.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.